Yeah, Ahmad. Okay, come on.
I can read.
Done
today.
looks like he needs to
Dan's a
read.
good reader, though.
Actually, I don't know where my book is at the minute.
But
You like some picture? Would you like to read inside while we read? I'm just gonna shoot off some WhatsApp pictures for you, okay?
read inside. Oh, because he doesn't have the pictures of the book, right? So where did you move?
Back into our house. We were just doing a renovation. We did our kitchen over again, but we extended the house and put in a kitchen.
Nice. I have found that moving, I don't know if it counts if what you did, but it seems like it does, that it's like a lazy Susan of your life. And there's all these little things that you have like tucked away in places, and they bring back all these memories of your whole life, and it's just like a lazy Susan, like, and you have to decide, like, am I keeping this? Am I throwing this away? Am I keeping this? Am I throwing this? And it just, it's a lot of emotional upheaval.
This was a little better because in a sense we were reunited with some of our things because we were in a split sort of situation. So it wasn't bad. It's good to be back. It's just we got to get the chaos under control so that I can find things again.
Well, your glasses are on your head right now.
Well, that's because I'm trying to read this type on the phone. So,
I can read.
all right.
I think if I don't get yelled at by my kids and my wife, I could read it. But he
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Let him.
Should we
I'll give this a shot.
Okay, go.
Another thing we need to know is that the power of our divine service has to perfect the creation comes exclusively from God. This is the power that God gave the Jewish people when they received the Torah on Mount Sinai, in which he continues to sustain within each and every Jew every single moment. Does someone want to read the footnote 27? Are we going to do footnotes?
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Notes are good.
Maybe somebody else could read the footnotes so I don't have to move around.
You do the footnotes.
Okay, in the last section, footnote 27, in the last section, we established that the gift of free choice God gave us enables us to have an intimate relationship with him. When we use this free choice properly to serve him, the divine emanations interconnect properly and the world becomes full of blessing and light. We now proceed to analyze how our divine service is actually able to have such a profound effect.
This is the power that God gave the Jewish people when they received the Torah on Mount Sinai, in which he continues to sustain within each and every Jew every single moment. They must be given this power even though they are already innately predisposed to serve God, and even though they have the capability of free choice, as we explained. Note 28.
Souls of the Jewish people were created in a way that gives us the potential to fulfill all the mitzvahs. Furthermore, we gain the free choice necessary to serve God when the soul enters the body. However, it is only through the power that God first gave us on Mount Sinai that our divine service gains its ability to elevate and perfect the world.
This power is what makes the difference between a person who does something because God has commanded him and a person who does something simply because he wants to. 29.
This concept is mentioned in the Talmud a number of times. See, for example, Kiddushin 31a and the second explanation of the Ritva there.
God gives the person whom he has commanded the power to rectify the creation through his actions. A person who does something simply because he wants to does not have this power. 30.
When a person performs an action commanded by God, like eating matzah on Pesach, he affects the entire universe, since God has invested that action with a special power. If a non-Jew eats matzah, even if he has the intention to bring blessing to the world through this action, it will have no positive effect. It might even have a negative effect. God has not empowered that action for him. Similarly, even if a Jewish person eats matzah after Pesach with these intentions, it will have no effect. God has not empowered that action at such a time.
I actually take issue with these negative effects here. The Talmud says, Godel hamitzuva mia oisa Godela mitzuva v'oisa mia enu mitzuva v'oisa, meaning greater is the one commanded than the one who is not commanded. But it doesn't say that the one not commanded is it might be doing something negative. It says the one that's commanded is greater. In fact, there are many sources that say when anyone does a mitzvah, it has some benefit. So I take great exception to that note. But let's see.
What about
maybe
if
it's
they
based on there are a few exceptions. Yeah. What about?
I mean, I've seen Jews do this, but what if non-Jews like eat matzah with shrimp salad?
That's the ideal way to eat it, Lev.
Well, it's the best way to eat shrimp salad.
At the deli, they used to do that. At the deli, I used to know. I'll get matzah and shrimp salad. I used to think, what's the point in keeping kosher for Passover if you don't keep kosher the rest of the year? Because the rest of your food isn't kosher in your house and your kitchen.
Every little bit helps.
I know.
You're remembering, the Exodus from Egypt in your way. Maybe you eat shrimp all year, but you don't eat the bread on Passover.
I
Maybe
still think it's better than not doing it. Yeah.
Right. It's true. It's like, it's still, we're all on the same path.
My father
We're just
told
getting
me
there
that
different ways.
that growing up in Egypt, they had an early Sabbath service for people who had to work on Shabbat. So like the rabbi would have, there was you could go to shul early, and he was told too, if he wanted to go see the movies, he'd go to services in the morning and go to the movies after. So in different contexts, there's, the flexibilities are, I don't know, they're
That's
different
fascinating
traditions.
that they did that.
It was
I
a
used to do
different,
all or
it's a
nothing.
different
More than,
tradition.
that's a little bit more than kitniot on Pesach.
This is not an uncommon experience, as I understand, among the Sephardic Jews.
Yeah.
I read this fascinating book called The Wandering Jew by I forget the author's name, but I'll send you guys the thing. It's an Israeli author talking about. Anyway, I'll send you guys the thing. Should we
Sephardic
continue?
tradition.
Sorry
Yeah,
for that.
sorry, Sephardic tradition.
That was part of it, but
Okay.
just the different Jewish traditions and secularism, and it was an interesting.
So what do you classify yourself, Dan?
Personally, my own form. I don't know. I don't take a specific branch. I mean, I was raised in an Orthodox home, but we had our own form of Judaism. We didn't go to shul very much, but we kept it kind of kosher.
I'm
So-
saying, are you Sephardi? Are you Ashkenazi?
Oh.
Are you Mitzri? I don't know.
I'm me. I'm in some mixed tradition that I'm still trying to figure out where exactly I get the right, connections and answers and questions.
You need to tap in. That's what we're reading.
This is why I'm here.
At
Good.
some point, I need to talk to you guys about this guy called Yeshua. I just need about 2 hours of your time. And I really think that you guys might have, we've been working on this stuff, yes, but I think we could have a big breakthrough if we all just, talk about this guy. But sorry,
There's some
Ralph.
good news to be had there.
Yeah, there's good news. I don't know if you've heard it yet. But sorry. All right, continue, please.
Oh, hold on.
It's my dad. Rabbi, my dad would be very upset if I hadn't made that joke at that time.
Fine.
The service of the Kohanim in the Beit Mikdash proves this point. When this service is performed by a Kohen, it helps perfect, sorry, I have to go to the next page, the whole world. But when a non-Kohen does the same thing, he causes desecration and becomes subject to death at the hands of heaven. Furthermore, if a Kohen himself serves without the priestly garments, he's considered like a non-Kohen. Everything depends on the power granted from above, the king's mandate, which belongs only to the one who is commanded. However, this power can only be given to one who is predisposed to receive it. Therefore, it cannot be given to an animal or an angel, but only to the Jewish people, who are predisposed toward it from the beginning of their existence. This is what God did to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, for he did not actually give them the entire Torah at that time. Instead, he gave them the capacity to carry out all the mitzvot. That is, when he first gave them all the elevated qualities and abilities necessary for those whose task is to serve him. Previously, man had been lowered in status in order to be made subject to the evil inclination, as we explained above, part 1 of this chapter. At that point, he had become comparable to an animal. When the Jewish people came to Mount Sinai, God gave them all the fine qualities that they needed to become complete so that they would have the power to serve him. At that time, he drew them close to him with love. As we say in the Pesach Haggadah, he drew us close to him before Mount Sinai. Similarly, we say every day in the morning service, you brought us close to your great name. As a result of his love for the Jewish people, he attached them to him and gave them for the first time the ability to keep all of his mitzvot. He also made sure that their divine service would have the positive effect of perfecting the entire creation. Note 31.
God did two things to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai. First, he first refined the nature of our existence by elevating us above the negativity that had become attached to man when Adam sinned. This gave us the ability to carry out the mitzvahs. This was necessary even though our souls were already innately predisposed toward this, as mentioned above. Secondly, he gave us the actual power to perfect the world through the performance of these mitzvot.
This is what is meant by the words, you shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Note 32.
These words were addressed to the Jewish people shortly before the giving of the Torah.
From then on, the Jewish people became separated from the other nations and crowned with the supernal ability to keep all the mitzvot and to perfect the entire creation through them, as we explained. This ability is renewed continuously and never leaves the Jewish people. As it says, today you have become God's nation. Note 33.
Note 33. Gosh, I got lost for a second.
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. On Har Sinai, we were permanently transformed into a vessel suitable to receive the power to perfect the world. However, this power needs to be renewed with us at every moment. We are told that our forefathers kept the Torah even before it was given. However, the commentators explain that the mitzvah they performed at that time only had this power if the individual himself connected the action to its spiritual source. This was only possible through the attainment of an extremely elevated level of consciousness at the time of the performance of the mitzvah.
As it says, today you have become God's nation. Each person is obliged to see himself every day as if he is then receiving the Torah from Mount Sinai. Note 34.
The Hebrew word for today can be interpreted as meaning every day. The intent of the sage's comment is that a person's ability to serve God each day is a renewal of the power he first received on Mount Sinai.
This quality is renewed for the Jewish people each day according to the needs of each particular moment. Note 35.
This power is renewed each day, but not always in an identical way. The power is received according to the nature of each particular mitzvah, each particular person, and each particular moment.
What are you guys making of this?
I love this. This is like so cool. I'm telling you guys, a couple of years ago in Shavuot, I was here by myself during the pandemic, and I got really tuned up into this thing, and I was reading this stuff from Shemos, and it was in this book, Our Heritage, about the Jews hearing the sounds and hearing the colors and seeing the sounds. And I had this vision that we could actually still go to Har Sinai. It was like, even though it's a place, that happened in the past, that we are actually still able to put ourselves in a position to receive, and Shavuos was like a special time because stay up all night. It kind of all, it's like you're supposed to, some people stay up all night and learn. And it really crystallized for me that, the whole thing about the Exodus of Egypt, that we were really there, or we should remember that our souls were there. If all of our souls were mixed up and they were already there, then our souls are just like in a new body right now, that we were there. It's like we would always say this at the Seders, you should think of yourself as you were there. And it's not just an isolated thing from the past. And this
it's not just a
idea
thought exercise.
reminds, it's like a continuing thing. We wake up every day, the creation is all over again, and we have this opportunity to put ourselves in a position to receive. And I'm telling you, after starting this class, I've told my kids this, and I'll stop talking, but I put the tefillin on, and I said to my kids, I said, this is like, if you don't have a signal on your phone and there's no Wi-Fi, you can't watch YouTube Kids. I said, Daddy's putting this thing on his head so he can get the signal and upload and download the data and talk to God. And I started doing it. And I mean, it was only after this class, and it's like that is how I'm figured out how to like get in the position to receive. I mean, I can't even believe that this is all written out like this, because this is what I was totally feeling. So this is great to see. I'm going to stop because I could go
on. Gil, you had.
I'm in violent agreement with everything that Lev just said.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Violent?
Violent. I have to put some sort of a adjective to it that is sort of, I don't know. Just great agreement doesn't sound right. So yeah, I mean, almost exactly the same kinds of thoughts, almost exactly the same kind of realization, the same kind of insistence that it's not a intellectual sort of thought exercise, that it's a real phenomenological kind of ability. That I've always felt that we are often, it's very difficult for us to break out of an understanding that is trapped in a temporal kind of a setting, right? Because we're always living each second and each minute and each hour going forward. And if we'd only be a little bit more flexible about our understanding of time, which itself is relative, then I think it wouldn't be much of a leap of the imagination to understand that because the soul is eternal and it's connected to God, that it's really not far at all away from it. That Sinai, the moment, is happening every second. It's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now. So, and it's connected to us through every second. So just like Lev said, it kind of doesn't surprise me that my intuitive sense of when I really sort of have those flashes of that it's connected to us in a way that we can't see or think about, that our sort of mental filter that you have to have in your mind at any day, because otherwise you wouldn't get through work, you wouldn't get through taking care of your kids, you wouldn't be able to live a normal functioning life if you weren't able to filter out some of these deeper sort of realities. But if you actually think about it on the most fundamental levels, I think that it's exactly as he states it. And so, but I also think it's not something anyone can ever convince someone or intellectualize. I think it's very much an intuitive sense that one gets. Some people maybe have it more than others. Some people more attuned to it, almost like a vibration, but.
Exactly like a vibration. Like
yeah.
the echo and the sound has like shaken the universe. And I think the other class, he was talking about this echo, and it's still there. And if you get tuned up, you can receive the sound. And it's just like an echo, like a sound wave, like, the Big Bang, even just like the echoes or the vibrations, and everything has, like, our souls have been imprinted. It's like that idea. And it's like, you just have to tune up the instrument. Otherwise, you can't hear it. Like, yeah, it's.
Don, tell us about the CMB.
Love this, man.
What?
It's like the CMB.
Sure. Just like that.
Yeah.
Cosmic background.
Cosmic.
Yeah, right. That thing.
It's ever present always.
Cosmic what?
Cosmic microwave background. That thing that Penzias and Wilson discovered that was the evidence for the Big Bang, because there's residual energy and it's emanating from all directions, and it's essentially the mathematical
Everywhere and
proof
pretty
to-
uniform.
right.
Yeah, if you start looking deep enough, it starts to resonate through.
Okay, Jason, it's time for you to pop all of this hot air balloon. You just go pop. Actually, I think you guys are completely insane. Clinically, need to be clinical diagnosis, and I'm sending somebody from Fort Meade Or,
I'm pacifistically in antagonism to you. Is that it? So I guess one question. So
irrational.
Sorry.
This whole line of thinking is totally irrational. That's like why you can't convince anybody of it. You have to feel it. And it's not rational to take this leap of faith or to have this like faith. It's not rational.
I want to hear from
So-
Jason. Sorry, Lev. I don't want to cut him off, but I want to give Jason a chance to.
Yeah.
I just had a question. So it's sort of the first, at least that I recall, time that he's talking about sort of the Jewish people as being God's nation and everything like that. And sort of, I don't know if maybe I missed it because I haven't been on every class, or maybe it's coming up. It's sort of, what's everyone else's role? Because he creates this world with all these things, and he talks about the animals, and he talks about all the mechanisms by which all these things are occurring. But what's the everyone else doing?
What
Are
about
they
the Goyim?
foils? Yeah,
What about
are
the-
they foils for the Jews? Or is this a part of the whole, like, are they evil? I don't. It's like I'm just not sure what the other 7 billion people are, where they fit in this thing.
That's
So,
a really good question.
Yeah, I let's see. I'm not sure how he's going to deal with that.
and maybe it comes in. There are still a good few chapters to go. So
Yeah, let's
Well,
see.
he talked about there was that line there where it's like there was the animals and
Mhm.
then I made the Jews.
yeah,
It felt
It's like,
like
ooh, this is
that,
getting a
right?
little-
I mean,
kind of, yeah, sort of similar.
guys, felt a little weird. I
Yeah.
know what you mean.
Well-
Borderline anti-Semitic.
There is this tradition that we have 613 mitzvot, and there are 7 Noachide mitzvot.
Yeah.
So, you don't find that by animals, that's for sure. So I guess there's some power, right? There's some power. There's something there. I wonder if you'll get to it at all. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is a really interesting explanation of the importance of Sinai, and what actually transpired there. It's very interesting. We received the power more than the mitzvot. He's interested in the power that we needed in order for them to work.
Continue.
Yeah.
We will now explain the nature of the partnership that we mentioned between the righteous and God in the task of perfecting the world, part 2 of this chapter. Note 36.
We mentioned above that God gave man free choice and that as a result, the righteous became God's partners in the task of perfecting the world. At the beginning of this section, we learned how our actions gain this power to perfect the world. Now we will examine how this partnership between God and the righteous actually works and what exactly is required of the righteous in order for them to fulfill their task.
This partnership stems from the fact that God brought into existence the darkness embedded in the lower worlds. 37.
The nature of the partnership is as follows. God brought evil into existence by creating the darkness of this lowly physical world. This created the task of perfecting the world through the overcoming of evil. The spiritual forces necessary for the destruction of evil are only transmitted when the lower worlds have been made ready for this by man's own efforts to overcome evil. To the extent that the righteous are successful in this struggle, God sends down corresponding forces of holiness and perfection to complete the task. In this way, the righteous become partners with God in the rectification of the world.
This in turn gave rise to the existence of evil, as well as the task of removing it and transforming it into a vehicle for good, as we explained part 1 of this chapter. God sends divine emanations to perfect the lower worlds only to the extent that they have been suitably prepared. As a result, it's the task of the righteous to constantly rectify the darkness of this world little by little, since according to what they are able to rectify, God will send down new, more elevated emanations. The power of these emanations depends on the extent of the preparation and rectification carried out in the nature of the lower worlds. Therefore, the righteous present God with a newly prepared reality and a new rectification of the darkness of the lower worlds that we just mentioned. And God responds with a powerful corrected emanation commensurate with the extent of this preparation. It is therefore appropriate for the righteous to make preparation upon preparation and rectification upon rectification within the lower worlds. God will then correspondingly send down emanation upon emanation of increasing elevation. After Adam's sin, the world became greatly diminished, as we explained in chapter 6, part 1. The nature of the lower worlds became more deficient. Consequently, we first need to rectify these additional deficiencies. This process will continue until the time of redemption, as the ultimate purpose of our various exiles is to rectify the damage that has been caused and to regain what we have lost. Only after that will we attain the additional good that Adam was supposed to receive had he not sinned, as we explained above. Once this is achieved, we will be completely redeemed. Note 38.
We learned in chapter 6, part 1, that Adam existed at a level in Gan Eden where evil was less powerful and existence was much more elevated. Had he overcome his one test by not eating from the tree of knowledge, the world would have risen to its ultimate level and become completely perfected. Instead, he sinned, causing the world to descend into great darkness. Our task now is first of all to repair the damage caused by Adam's sin and the subsequent sins of man. The first part of this task will be completed at the time of the resurrection of the dead, when we will return to the level of Gan Eden, and death will be removed from the world. After that, we will become even more elevated and attain the good that Adam was supposed to receive, and we will be completely redeemed.
It emerges that our task is to distance evil from the additional areas it invaded after Adam's sin, as we explained, and to regain the good that we lost. Through their deeds, the righteous are constantly preparing the lower worlds in new ways, and God accordingly sends down new emanations to rectify the world. Thus, God has given part of the direction of the world to the Jewish people by making them partners in the task of perfecting the world. God deals with one aspect of perfecting the world, and they deal with the other aspect, until between the two of them, the world becomes completely perfected. Note 39.
The task of the Jewish people is to overcome the evil in the world, transforming it into a vehicle for good. Correspondingly, God sends divine emanations of holiness and light. Between the two of them, the world becomes perfected.
In this sense, our sages interpret the verse, "My dove, my perfect one," tamati, as if it said, "My dove, my twin," teumati. Furthermore, in the following verse, we find this partnership of emanation and receiving in order to perfect the creation. Note 41.
I'll also read 40. It was like right there.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Okay.
It cut
It was on the side. I didn't see it
Yeah.
either. God addresses the Jewish people as my dove, My twin refers to the fact that we have an equal share in the task of perfecting the world. As we have learned, the relationship and partnership between God and the Jewish people is reflected by the relationship and partnership between the divine active emanations and the divine receiving force that sustains the existence of the entire creation.
I'm going to just do the part up to 41 again. So furthermore, in the following verse, we find this partnership of emanation and receiving in order to perfect the creation. My left hand established the earth, while my right hand stretched out the heavens. I call unto them, and they stand together. The heavens emanate, and the earth receives. Nevertheless, they're considered equal, since the creation is completed between the two of them. In this sense, our sages commented on the verse for Shir Hashirim quoted above. In a certain sense, I am no greater than her, i.e. the Jewish people, and she no greater than me. However, the verse from Yeshayahu associates emanation with the right side because the right side is more dominant, and it associates needing and receiving with the left side because the left side is inferior to the right. Note 42. As a lefty, I object, by the way. I just want to make that clear.
I knew you were going to say it. I was waiting.
Your left hand is your right hand.
I'm aligned.
Note 42. The divine forces emanate from the heavens and are received by the earth. God's left hand established the earth through the receiving force, and his right hand stretched out the heavens through the emanations that act upon the world. The verse then says that they stand together. They have an equal partnership. Nevertheless, the receiving force is associated in the verse with the weaker left hand. Since, although it is an equal partner in the task of completing the world, in itself, it is lacking and needs completion from the emanating forces. The emanating forces are in themselves complete, except for the fact that they need to connect to the receiver to fulfill their purpose. Therefore, they are associated with the stronger right side. That was confusing.
Well, the part from God is the right side. It's the stronger part, and the human part is the weaker left side that just receives. I think that's what I got from that. Does that seem right?
Although they both emanations, so that you got to kind of put that together with it. It's
Needing
part
and
of the
receiving.
power that we have been endowed with to do a mitzvah and then receive the, I don't know if it's just in us, I guess it's in the world as well, that receiving emanation.
Well, emanation, it says, is associated with the right side and associates needing and receiving with the left side. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
but if he, that's true, but he calls them both emanations.
in the note. I might have missed that. The heavens emanate and the earth receives. No, rest are both equal. I don't know. Maybe it'll continue.
Oh, maybe I, let's see.
It seems like the job of the righteous is to do the good stuff and to do the perfection and the create, the fixing up, and then God emanates every time, right? That was the pattern from the page before, I think, right?
Yeah.
And now it's done as a sense of a partnership and almost an equal partnership, but slightly unequal. Like equal in the sense that there are two hands, but one hand is stronger than the other.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is in note 41. It's really based on stuff that came before, but for this purpose, I think yeah. That's the way it's working. Okay.
You have already learned, part 1 of this chapter, that everything associated with the lower worlds depends on God's word. Consequently, the source of all these matters is the existence of a supernal divine force that sustains them in all their various manifestations. Note 43.
This paragraph is the conclusion of the whole chapter so far. We learned at the beginning of the chapter that every element in the lower worlds is a product of God's word, meaning that there is a divine sustaining force that fills all existence. We then analyzed in detail many aspects of the changing nature of the lower worlds. Man's nature of greatness or lowliness, his original high state, and his subjection to evil in order to perfect the world, his partnership with God through the gift of free choice, his relationship with God of face-to-face or back-to-back, part 2, the power to repair the world granted from Mount Sinai onward, and the task of righteous in perfecting creation, part 3. Since the entire nature of the lower worlds is given existence by the divine sustaining force, it follows that all these matters mentioned in connection with the lower worlds are a product and consequence of this supernal divine force that sustains them in all their manifestations. Wow.
Okay. There's a lot in that. Number four. Just remember number 43, guys.
That's it. 43.
Daat, Tevunot. 43. Yeah. Okay.
The elements of this force parallel and relate to the elements of God's emanations upon the world in all their configurations. Note 44.
I feel like the notes are more.
Yeah, no, they definitely are.
The various emanations that act upon the world only fulfill their purpose when they are received by the divine sustaining force, which transmits them to the lower worlds. Each configuration.
It's like a primer. Any of you guys painters?
Sure.
Right? So you need to apply a primer on the wall, and then you can put on the paint. So, you know, that's the sustaining, that's the receiving force is the primer. And I guess what we need to really understand is how our actions affect that receiving force. I think it acts directly on it. And then the emanations that come from God, the light, the goodness, is like the paint that then can go on the wall. You can tell what I've been doing today. Okay. just a little bit, but yeah, I had to deal with it. Okay.
Each configuration of emanations therefore needs to be connected to a suitable element of the receiving force. Consequently, the various elements of the receiving force parallel exactly the emanations they need to receive.
This is a result of the fact that the lower worlds and the forces that give them existence are all part of one reality. Just as the smaller branches of a tree are part of a single main branch, as I have already mentioned. Note 46.
What happened to 45? Oh, wait, did we skip it?
Yeah,
I guess
we did.
Oh,
it came so quickly. I didn't
sorry.
see it.
I'm sorry. I think I might have messed up here. Did I skip a bunch of stuff? I might have. I totally
maybe.
did.
Yeah.
I thought you read.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I explained the matter to you above, part 2 of this chapter, in relation to the verse, "You will see me from the back, but my face will not be seen." There I clarified that this verse refers to certain types of divine emanations through which we can measure the degree of closeness or distance in the relationship between the Jewish people and their Father in heaven. According to the extent that the force behind the lower worlds connects to and parallels the various types of divine emanations, the actual situation of the lower worlds will change in every aspect. Note 45.
When the emanations upon the world are face to face with the receiving force, this signifies that there is a relation of closeness between God and the Jewish people, and blessing and light fill the world. When the emanations are back to back, the opposite occurs. In truth, the relationship between these two sets of forces depends on the dynamics of the relationship between the Jewish people and God. The behavior of the Jewish people determines the balance of closeness or distance between the forces, which in turn changes the actual situation of the lower worlds.
This is a result of the fact that the lower worlds and the forces that give them existence are all part of one reality, just as the smaller branches of a tree are part of a single main branch, as I've already mentioned. 46.
The lower worlds are defined, formed, and sustained by the spiritual forces behind them, and together they form part of one interconnected reality. Therefore, it is obvious that according to the changes in the balance of these spiritual sustaining forces, the whole nature of the lower worlds will also change.
Guys, give me 1 second. What does this all mean to you? I'll be back in 1 second.
Discuss.
Discuss. I'll give you a topic.
Discuss amongst yourselves.
The progressive era was neither progressive nor an era.
You should know
The
better than-
Industrial Revolution was neither industrial nor a revolution.
Great.
I was thinking about what you had asked about all the other people, like what, because that's like a problem. Like there's like this idea of exclusivity, and people say tribalism.
Yeah,
and
chosen.
sometimes, what's that?
Chosenness.
Chosenness, and is a Jewish soul like more valuable than a non-Jewish soul, and this and that. And a lot of that I don't really understand, but I was thinking that part of that can drive me away when I see the way people believe they should do business with a Jewish person with their level of honesty in business, but when it's not Jewish, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
I could do this and this and this, cut. So I think that one thing that came to me after you mentioned that idea was that a lot of non-Jews become Jews, and David himself, or not David, David himself is like the son or grandson, I don't know what the lineage is of a convert. So I think it's not that they just have a different role and they have a different responsibility. I think it's part of the, there has to be a separate. I don't know. It's like if we were all chosen to be in this role, it would be like a different thing. It was like they supposedly, the idea is that God offered the Torah to other nations and they just declined it, but they could still accept and take on this responsibility, but they don't have to. They don't have the same level of obligation, but they can and have. And maybe that's a really good thing when they do, because you see these people that have converted and they bring in like all this other light into the Jewish world. Like I see, and also like, other.
There's nothing that says that they don't have their own deal, right? Like this is our deal. They're not in on our deal, and we have our role in perfecting creation. But there's nothing that says that the say Chinese or whoever doesn't have their own role, their own deal with God and their way of perfecting the world, right? I mean, did I miss that?
I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, we're all still on a path to this power. We just have a different road.
I guess Don, the question for you would be, do they need to do, is it only about let's talk about world perfection. Is it only about the Jews? Meaning,
Doesn't seem like it.
if the Jews do it, it would work. The Jews don't do it, it's not going to work. So it's not up to the non-Jews. Or are they a critical part to it?
I don't see how we're going to do it without everybody else, if you want my opinion on the matter.
Well, in a
For what
very
that's worth.
supernatural way.
But once the Jews do it, the idea is they're going to see that, that this is Hashem Echad. There's only
Part of the
one,
way.
City
right?
on a
Oh,
hill.
but what are Christians supposed to do? Because, some of the best friends that the Jewish people have and that the state of Israel has are religious Christians. And I'm not talking about religious Christians who harbor some sort of nefarious desire to convert the Jews. They are genuine, heartfelt people who love Jews and philo-Semitic because they believe in the biblical sort of injunction that God blesses those who bless the children of Israel, and they do that in their every life. So are they helping to perfect the world by being religious Christians themselves if they are born Christians? I mean, not for Jews to become Christians. Jews should be Jews, but if Christians are born Christians and if they follow that path, aren't they doing their part? And certainly aren't they doing something to help the Jewish people if they are philo-Semitic? I mean, I'll tell you what, I think that the state of Israel probably, well, I don't know what the numbers are, but in terms of broad donations, right? You've got, what's his name in Vegas, Adelson. I mean, you've got these massively wealthy Jews that give tremendously of their resources to Israel, and they should be blessed for doing so. But there are also huge numbers of religious Christians, business, folks in the private sector who donate massively to Jewish causes and to Israel. And they should also be praised, and they should also receive some sort of,
I mean, I don't think anybody's saying that they're not, but they just don't. What we're saying is they don't have the same responsibility with the mitzvot. And
They don't have our responsibility with the mitzvah, but I mean,
right.
they get access.
If the Jews started doing all this evil, then these people wouldn't be supporting us. So, or the people that you're talking about, but it's still up to us to be this beacon of being a light unto the nations because of this other responsibility. Even with Jews, there's the Kohanim and the Levi and the different tribes, and they have different responsibilities too, but it doesn't mean that
Anyone's
have
lesser.
a responsibility. We're not saying they don't have a responsibility too.
Well,
or that they're not part of it.
One way to understand this is, if you remember, he said that it was a Midrash, whatever, that the forefathers kept the Torah, meaning between the time of Abraham and Moses is 1,000 years, right? It's a long time. These people lived a long time. Abraham is born in 1948. 1948, and we got the Torah in 2448. Sorry, it's
no, 2948.
What? No. It's 500 years, not 1,000.
You were making a joke.
What?
You meant 1948.
I thought he was taking Israel and then adding it. I don't know what
That's
It's Jackie Robinson or something like that.
Smelling the paint fumes too much, and things are misfiring.
Where's your Messiah now? See? Where's your Moses now?
No, in Jewish. So we are in 5782.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In 1948, Abraham was born in 1940. It's an amazing thing, really. I mean, okay. So 500 years, right? Done. What's 2448 take away 1948?
Oh, please, that's not my kind of math.
No, because
that's not what I do. They made calculators for that. I'm sorry.
500 years. So
That sounds good.
What were the forefathers doing when they kept the mitzvot? So he said over here, I refer you. to back. We read it tonight somewhere.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember what you're talking about, yeah.
That it only affected them individually.
It's footnote 33.
Oh, it was a footnote again?
Yeah, it was a footnote 30, page 503 at the bottom.
Uh-huh. Oh, from the Nefesh HaChaim. Interesting.
We are told that our forefathers kept the Torah even before it was given. However, the mitzvot they performed only had the power if the individual himself connected the action to its spiritual source.
Right. So maybe like the Talmud says that there's such a thing as righteous Gentiles. There's no, Jews, what's his name? I think Bertrand Russell was the one that said the Jews brought it upon themselves, this idea of a master race. And, they were the one, like, what were they expecting?
Wow, did he say that?
So, huh?
Did he say that? I didn't know that. I was not aware that he said something like that.
Yeah. Which is a fair criticism. I mean, you got it, so Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky answered, he said, no, there's no idea of an absolute master race. Anyone can join. It's open to any person in the world can come and, convert. And he said that wasn't true. And, how the Jews were more German than the German. And yet they still got schmites. So long story short, maybe it's up to the macro fixing of the world is up to the Jews. The individual fixing of individuals, any person could do, even without being Jewish, right? Even without being Jewish. That's a departure. The Christians and the Muslims departed from Judaism on that fact because they require conversion to get to heaven, right? You can't get to heaven as a good Jew if you're a Christian, but you could get to heaven as a good Christian if you're from Jewish belief.
Yeah.
See, that's where it doesn't make sense about the other 7 billion people is when the Christians say, if you don't believe Jesus is your savior, you're going to hell. So they're like, well, everybody else is going to. See, that's where it falls. I think it falls short. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the way we're looking at it, we're not saying that, they're all
You're
like
not doomed.
Right.
Okay, where are we up to?
We're finished I don't know, 159, right?
We did
Yeah,
40.
it definitely student. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Or did we do 45?
Yeah.
Did we do 46?
Oh, we're
Yeah, that's right, we did.
okay.
Right, so student. It definitely makes sense that there is a deeper factor behind the constantly changing nature of the lower worlds, namely that there is a spiritual source that undergoes change, and that this process of change produces all the changes we see in the lower worlds. Furthermore, the changes in this source parallel the changes that occur in the divine emanations. 47.
In summary, there are 3 parallel elements we need to identify: the emanations that act upon the world, B, the force that receives these emanations and sustains all of existence, and C, existing creatures themselves, of whom a central element is the Jewish people. When the Jewish people do God's will, this causes the sustaining force to draw close to the emanating force and thereby receive an influx of the new divine emanation, which it then transmits to the creatures of the lower worlds. In this way, the Jewish people become partners with God in the rectification of the world. Adam wasn't Jewish, right? Noah wasn't Jewish. So they had some roles in this whole, outcome also. I mean, even Abraham's father wasn't Jewish. But even though they weren't Jews, they were still pretty important. And like I said before, David came from a convert somehow. The Messiah is supposed to be from a convert. I mean, I think that says a lot for.
So yeah. Just this last point. It's if you could think about it as the emanations are really there, prepared, ready to come into the world. The sun is shining. The receiving force is what we really have power over, and to the degree we change it, manipulate it, it lines up with the emanation.
It's an antenna. It's an antenna receiving a signal.
Yeah, so that's our job, right? Exactly what you said, actually, Lev, right? With your tefillin to your kids, like every mitzvah, that's what you're doing. You're building a little antenna in order to receive this emanation. Now, there is such a thing as, it doesn't work in the parable so well, but back to back, right? We could I guess I'm trying to think of how the parable could work. You break your antenna and then the signal kind of shoots back up, but we could even push away emanations which are in our world. There could be a good emanation coming in, and then we push it away through our actions. We might bring. So that's a good way to think about the our mitzvot, our actions, as
like if, for example, if your antenna, instead of receiving, were to try to broadcast on the same wavelength, you're going to disrupt the signal coming in instead of receiving it and reinforcing it.
There's I'll show you one thing, and then we can
trying to twist your analogy into a.
Yeah.
I like forcing analogies into places.
It's nice when they work perfectly. Okay.
Yeah, but even still, a little.
So there's. Let me see if I can get it.
At some point, I would like to know how the Ramchal figured this stuff out. He's talking about very specific concepts and very specific relationships of things to other things. And exactly. I would like to know how he sort of, because the idea is he got this stuff from the Zohar, right? Or from the more mystical tradition, right? The more sort of mystical sources. And it was verified as essentially being correct. I mean, his take on this, it's not like he just sort of spun this out and it's like, it sounds good. It's like, no, he's onto something deep and fundamental and correct. So it's pretty, it's just, I don't know.
It's also like, how do people know about, this is so far out and cosmic, like how could he possibly get this? But yeah. I think it's similar to some of the stuff that with acupuncture and points and these, or ayahuasca ceremonies, or these other levels of heightened awareness, that this stuff kind of comes through nature. It's like it's already there, but you have to get tuned in a certain way to be able to perceive it, but it's all there. Like, how would they have ever known, like, all these points that do all these different things in your body and all that? There's like other religions or Buddhist stuff that is similar to the Sefirot. It's like the stuff from the Kabbalah, but maybe it's already there and we're just not able to see it. And he was able to see it through whatever, maybe it was his, gift, or he was just learned enough. I don't know. What do you think?
Lev, we've had perceptive vision since, before we were humans. So there are things that are fundamental to our being. We've had sense of hearing, we've had limbs, right, for longer than we've been, mammals. So the notion of points on the butt, like the emanations, those chakras, that kind of stuff, there's deep evolved realities that are taking place there. So why not? Of course, right? I mean, the head is a unique spot, different than the arms and the legs. Of course, that's a thing, that's real. So that doesn't surprise me that these things would necessarily coincide along the same places where we've had, fundamental evolutionary engagements. Like hierarchies have existed in lobsters, right? I mean, you can give them antidepressants and they get, they feel better about their place in the hierarchy. It's crazy.
How do
So
they
we've had this for a long
how do
time.
they tell us that? How do we know the internal sort of barometer of what lobsters feel?
They've done
Conversation just went.
they've done studies.
My
Jason,
octopus
be
teacher.
concerned
have you seen
about
that?
the inner feelings of lobsters, and if you're not concerned about it, then
Hey, David Foster Wallace wrote a whole book called "Consider the Lobster." So there's
he's got some great stuff.
There's a lot there.
Did you guys see My Octopus Teacher?
Not yet.
No,
It's in my queue.
Beautiful, beautiful movie.
put it in there now.
It feels like something that if I watched, I would fall asleep probably, unless I was very alert.
It is.
It's soothing. Like I love watching David Attenborough documentaries, but inevitably he just soothes me to sleep.
It's
A
a
majestic
story.
whale.
What is it? What is it about the octopus again? It's called.
My Octopus Teacher.
The cinematography is, the cameras,
It's,
unbelievable.
that will keep you awake in and of itself. It's just, and the story they
I love him like this. Like, please stay.
Yeah, I'm going to show you one thing just that comes to my mind. So this is Moses speaking to the people. And he says, and God made a covenant with us at Horeb, and it was not with the ancestors, but with us, the living, every one of us here today, right? So that speaks to this point that this power invested in the Jewish people is here, right? Hayom kulanu chaim. We're living. Panim b'panim. God spoke to us face to face. That you could see as the setting up the potential for this face to face, right? Instead of back to back. This alignment was there. God gave us a taste of it. And then it says, I stood between God and you at that time to tell you the words of God because you were afraid of the fire and did not go up to the mountain. And then God spoke, I'm the Lord your God. So the Chassidim say, Anochi, I, the ego, Omeid bein Hashem u'benechem, is what stands between God and you. Right? It's a Chassidic interpretation of the verse, right? But and it's I am that which stands between God and you. So, if you want to align yourself, right? Got to
Dissolve the self.
All right. Get the ego under control. Don't know about getting rid of it, but at least under control.
Exactly. I think that's well said. I think that's exactly right.
All right, gentlemen. What we lack in quantity tonight, we have definitely gained in quality. And now you know what to say at the Pesach Seder, right? All those verses when we get to Dayenu, when he brought us close to the Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
He drew us close.
Yep, that's good stuff. Good
All
timing.
right.
It's
So
all part of why we're supposed to be doing this today before Pesach. Not accidental. Not accidental.
it's aligning. It's aligning. It's all aligning.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, have a wonderful week.
You too, Rabbi. Be careful with the painting. You know, they make very good masks that can filter out some of the noxious fumes. I'm just saying, you know, you want to be careful.
I don't want to give the paint anything also. Okay, any of you guys going to be around in Baltimore for Pesach?
We're going to Texas for this one. We're going to be in Dallas at my brother's.
Oh,
Yeah, you
nice.
do. Yeah,
Go
you
to
do.
Toronto.
We may be for the second Seder Saturday. If we are, I'll let you know. I mean, I'm not going to
Okay.
text you on Shabbat, but I'll let you know because
Let
we're
me
not-
know, because it's not going to make a difference because I'll see my phone after
No, but
Yontif.
if
But
you
have a
say-
nice Yontif. Thank you, Gil.
you
I
will.
appreciate it. No, go ahead.
I will
Fine.
be. We're staying local.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
wanted to bring somebody. Yeah, I was trying to find a guest that is into the Seder or into the experience, because usually we have our family that's, sometimes they just want to get through it.
When's the brisket? When's the brisket?
Right.